Okay. Could I ask Tracy to acknowledge and honor the indigenous people of this land? If that is all right, Tracy?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Tracy.
Come on. Come on. It's a girl.
So we just pause to acknowledge the country that we are all meeting from tonight, and that the Aboriginal people have been the custodians, the sovereign owners of these lands since time immemorial. And we want to pay our respect to the elders and for their obedience to the directive that they were given, that they've carried on in their culture to always be affirming that we are all interconnected, and that that unity is the most important thing. So we really thank them and pay our respects to the past elders, the present elders, and the future elders. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. And now we'll have a music.
Maybe before that, probably we can just remind the friends of this forum, in the Interfaith Forum, where these are some of the principles highlighted here. The primary purpose is to learn, that is to change and grow in the perception and understanding of reality. Each participant must come to the dialogue with complete honesty and sincerity. Dialogue can take place only on the basis of mutual trust, only between equals. All must come to learn from each other. Each participant eventually must attempt to experience the partner's religion or ideology from within. For a religion or ideology is not merely something of the head, but also of the spirit, heart, and whole being, individual and communal. So during the discussion, make comments expressing opinions, questions, and discussion only related to the topic presented, in an attitude of learning and seeking clarification on the topic without discrediting the idea presented or dishonoring the presenter or any others. Consult with purity of motive, express our opinion freely and frankly as a contribution towards a common good, without attachment to our own opinion and without belittling others' opinion. And if you are not talking, if you can please mute yourself and only unmute when you want to talk, that will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the music now.
Our
Thanks, Eva. So we'll start with the reading, and we got 7 readings, and I guess Eva has allocated them already. So we'll start with number 1. Read it, please.
Create in me a pure heart, O my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, O my hope. Through the Spirit of power, confirm thou me in thy cause, O my best beloved, and by the light of thy glory, reveal unto me thy path. O thou, the goal of my desire, through the power of thy transcendent might, lift me up unto the heaven of thy holiness, O source of my being. And by the breezes of thine eternity, gladden me, O thou who art my God. Let thine everlasting melodies breathe tranquility on me, O my companion. And let the riches of thine ancient countenance deliver me from all except thee, O my master. And let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy, O thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden.
The most acceptable prayer is the one offered with the utmost spirituality and radiance. His prolongation hath not been and is not beloved by God. The more detached and the purer the prayer, the more acceptable it is in the presence of God. It is incumbent upon thee to summons the people under all conditions to whatever will cause them to show forth spiritual characteristics and goodly deeds, so that all may become aware of that which is the cause of human upliftment, and may, with the utmost endeavour, direct themselves towards the most sublime station and the pinnacle of glory. The fear of God hath ever been the prime factor in the education of his creatures. Well is it with them that have attained thereunto. Baha'u'llah and the Bab.
Man is possessed of the nations of consciousness. He has perception, ideality, and is capable of discovering the mysteries of the universe. All the industries, inventions, and facilities surrounding our daily life were at one time hidden secrets of nature. But the reality of man penetrated them and made them subject to his purposes. According to nature's laws, they should have remained latent and hidden. But man, having transcended those laws, discovered these mysteries and brought them out of the plane of the invisible into the realm of the known and visible. How wonderful is the spirit of man. Abdu'l-Baha, 1912, The Promulgations of Universal Peace. Those wise men who are much given to meditation and find pleasures in a peace of a spiritual way of life, even the devas envy them, perfect Buddhas, and recollected as they are, Bodhis Dhammapada, sayings of the Buddha 1.
For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. King James Bible. But it has already been revealed to thee, as it was to those before thee. If thou wert to join gods with Allah, truly fruitless will be thy work in life, and thou wilt surely be in the ranks of those who lose all the spiritual good. Quran, Yusuf Ali.
And whenever, whilst enraptured in mind, his spiritual frame and his mind become tranquil, at such a time he has gained and is developing the element of enlightenment, tranquility. And thus this element of enlightenment reaches fullest perfection. And whenever, whilst being tranquilized in his spiritual frame and happy, his mind becomes concentrated, at such a time he has gained and is developing the element of enlightenment, concentration, and thus this element of enlightenment reaches fullest perfection, the Eightfold Path Buddha.
Yeah. Ganna Ka Vaidiha said, who is that self? Yana Valkaya replied, he who is within the heart, surrounded by the pranas, senses, the person of light, consisting of knowledge, he remaining the same, wanders along the two worlds, as if thinking, as if moving. During sleep, in dreams, he transcends. During sleep, in dreams, he transcends this world and all the forms of death, all that falls under the sway of death, all that is perishable. On being born to that person, assuming his body, becomes united with all evils. When he departs and dies, he leaves all evils behind. And there are two states for that person. The one here in this world, the other in the other world. And as a third and intermediate state, the state of sleep. When in that intermediate state, he sees both those states together. If one here in this world and the other in the other world. Now, whatever his admission to the other world may be, having gained that admission, he sees both the evils and the blessing. And when he falls asleep, then after having taken away with him the materials from the whole world and destroying and building it up again, he sleeps, dream by his own right. In that state, the person is self-illumined. This is from the Upanishad, Volume 2. Thank you.
In the beginning of his human life, man was embryonic in the world of the matrix. There, he received capacity and endowment for the reality of human existence. The forces and powers necessary for this world were bestowed upon him in that limited condition. In this world, he needed eyes. He received them potentially in the other. He needed ears. He obtained them there in readiness and preparation for his new existence. The powers requisite in this world were conferred upon him in the world of the matrix, so that when he entered this realm of real existence, he not only possessed all necessary functions and powers, but found provision for his material sustenance awaiting him. Therefore, in this world, he must prepare himself for the life beyond. That which he needs in the world of the kingdom must be obtained here. Just as he prepared himself in the world of the matrix by acquiring forces necessary in this sphere of existence, so likewise the indispensable forces of the divine existence must be potentially attained in this world. What is he in need of in the kingdom which transcends the life and limitation of this mortal sphere? That world beyond is a world of sanctity and radiance. Therefore, it is necessary that in this world he should acquire these divine attributes. In that world, there is need of spirituality, faith, assurance, the knowledge and love of God. These he must attain in this world, so that after his ascension from the earthly to the heavenly kingdom, he shall find all that is needful in that eternal life ready for him. That divine world is manifestly a world of lights. Therefore, man has need of illumination here. That is a world of love. The love of God is essential. Abdu'l-Baha.
Thank you everyone for reading it. And today is our 39th Interfaith meeting. And I would like to welcome everyone who are able to join, and a special welcome to Dr. Lubna Siddiqi. And I guess some of you seem to be knowing Dr. Lubna, and I'm not really sort of know her, but it's good to have you here today with us, Dr. Lubna. And I'll just read out what is you might not have known about Lubna. Dr. Lubna Siddiqi is an academic and Baha'i follower who is currently living in Tasmania and hailing from a multicultural family with different belief systems and living in various countries around the world. Dr. Lubna has developed an understanding of the nuances and around diversity and inclusion. Being a curious and passionate individual, Lubna has always been interested in religion, ethics, and morality, and has participated in several interfaith dialogues and multicultural activities. So that's good, you got a good one. Her work experience as a corporate trainer and as an academic led her towards the cross-discipline doctorate in education and management on the topic of spirituality. And she interviewed academics from religions, agnostic and atheist belief systems. The findings include the different viewpoints of spirituality and its importance in developing society. Dr. Siddiqui plans to continue her work overseas and will soon be moving to another continent. So you must be waiting for the COVID to finish and you could fly out, I guess, Doctor. And thank you for being able to spend some time and give us a talk on spirituality and life's purpose. And I guess I'm sort of thinking a lot of us have spirituality sort of at this age, we have come to that, but we all have a life purpose arise, especially during a crisis in our life. And we would like to hear more from you today, Dr. Lubna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. It was an interesting introduction. I know a few people here, and the thing, I came to Australia to do my PhD in spirituality, and it was because I was a corporate trainer before, and I was working in different organizations, and I found, and being a Baha'i, and living in different places, I've got people in my family who are from Christian background, from Muslim, from Hindu, from Parsi. So I have like this collection, and Muslim as well, and Muslims from different kind of backgrounds as well, different sects. So it was, and I found that despite this variance, we are still very similar. It was just the practices, the way people did things within the community, and it was just the rituals basically that were different, but the concept basically was the same. But then when I went into the corporate world and I saw that there was a difference between the way people would sit and not have lunch or dinner together at the workplace, because this person is from another religious background or from another community or something, and that raised my interest in spirituality. And then during my readings and study, I found that there's a concept of workplace spirituality, and being a Baha'i, I felt like I need to explore this. And so I applied for a PhD, got a scholarship, and I came here to Tasmania. And I've been in Tasmania for the last 8.5 years. And I was working at the University of Tasmania, and now I am moving to the University of Nottingham, and in October, not after COVID.
All right, in October. Okay, so that's not long. Okay.
So that was the reason I wanted to do this now, because I'm in the middle of packing, and 8.5 years of everything in 2 to 3 suitcases is a big challenge. So, and I just got the offer just on the 1st of September, and I got interviewed in August. So this was like Baha'u'llah sending a whirlpool of things in my life. I'm completely stirred right now. So I said, okay, but this is my favorite topic, so I thought I can talk. So
thank you. I would love to hear this.
So the thing was about this, I've prepared a presentation with that, because there's a few quotes. And what I have done is I've incorporated some of my findings from my research. And I have also put in some Baha'i quotes, and I've put a comparative analysis of different spiritualities as per religion and secular, and tried to bring that together, and then put in a few quotes from Baha'u'llah and Abu Baha about what is the purpose of life. And you can see, like, I was looking at the readings today, and they have exactly the same baseline. We all have to do the same thing, and the purpose of life is very, very clear. It's just we just need to practice, and that's the hard part of it, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'll just share my screen if I can.
Yes.
Okay, there. Okay, so spirituality and our life's purpose. The thing about spirituality is it is a very big topic. And so it's like bringing the ocean into a droplet. So I have tried to narrow it down as much as I can today. And, maybe later on, maybe you can have other people come and talk about it. So I'm just going to just touch the tip of the iceberg, but let's see how it goes. So this is something that one academic has written. It was part of my thesis, which was really interesting. And it talks about, if we want to reshape our economy, our politics, our institutions, religious or whatever, we need something that has a deeper root in it. So it's not about just, we have organizational settings, we've got, this is how we do the work, and like machines we work. This academic actually said that we need something where we have a sense of shared meaning and responsibility and a purpose, not just to make money, but it has to be really deeper. And they call it spirituality. So that's a very different view of spirituality compared to what we look at. But still, it has that connection that they're saying, okay, we're looking at the material aspect, but they within organizations, but it starts with, now we need to go deeper. We can't just do the way we have been doing things. So this was about 6 years ago, from one of the authors. This is from Abdul Baha, which is something that was really interesting. He says that one of the most important thing is the spirit. It is essential part of man, and man here is used for both men and women and everybody. It's about human beings, and he's saying it's the most essential thing, the spirit. It's a noble phenomenon, and it is a meeting between man and God. It's what animates human life and a collective center of human virtues. So our virtues are all based because of the spirit that we have. And that's what the other author was talking about, like institutions. We have all these institutions, but where do we still lack that spirit? It's the cause of the illumination of this world. So we're just like the light, and we are part of, we're illuminating this world through the spirit. And if you look around at the world right now, there's so many people who are sad. There's not a lot of happiness, especially after COVID, and before that there's so many things happening in the world. And when we look at that, it's because people are not happy because they have gone, that life of the spirit has gone to the material world. And so what has happened is there's a lot more darkness. And because of that darkness, that light is there. It's like a mirror. It's like there. But we need to clean up that mirror. We need to clean up that, remove that darkness and glow like the light. And Abdul Baha has likened us to a lamp chimney where we are, the lamp, and the spirit is that light. And if that light is still there, but if there's a dross or if there's fire in there, it's there, but it's not lighted. And so he's saying it's so important that we animate this life, we bring that happiness within ourselves and within the society, and then have a collective center of all human virtues. Now, the problem that I've had over the years trying to define spirituality. So when I was talking to the academics, because I had, as I said earlier, that I interviewed people who were very religious. I interviewed people who were agnostics, so like they were not sure about religion and God. And then there were those who were purely very strong atheists. So they were like, we don't know how to define spirituality. And there were some that were very rigid about their ideas. So it was an interesting thing. So one of the quotes that I found is like, it says, there are so many words that we can operationalize, we can define them, but spirituality is one word that we should not define. And that was one of the things that I had done in my research. Was I did not give a definition, but I asked people to define, what do they think spirituality is and how does it work? So some of the things that came up, I'm going to just go with that. So one of the things was that the first question I asked them was, what is spirituality for you? And they said, it's religion. 100% of the participants, whether they had a religious background or not, they said it's linked to spirituality. It's linked to religion. So it has it's connected to theology, but then now it has a separate identity, which is also secular. So it appeals to everybody. Religion may not appeal to a lot of people, but spirituality appeals. And that is where the commonality and the unity and the love can be found for each other, for everybody, for the whole system. So when we look at religion, its origin is also Latin. When
Accidentally, you're muted.
Ah,
You're muted accidentally.
And so I'll just go back again. Oops. Okay, so religions, it says religion, which is about ritual, whereas spirit or spirare, it's basically about breath or spirit or something that is life. So it's pretty much similar, but yet the only main difference is because it's more focused, religion is more focused on ritualistic practices to build that spirit, whereas spirituality is something that's an individual's personal experience. It could be whatever they believe is sanctified. So something that I may say, this is, what my religion says, where another individual will say, well, my spirit agrees with this. I may not believe in a God. I may not believe in a religious system, but that is what is sanctified. It's sacred to me. And if you go out in the world right now, you see a lot of people say that I'm not religious, I'm just spiritual. And so this is where it has become slightly different in that sense, because one of the most important thing in both cases, in religion and spirituality, is meaning and value. And spirituality does come from religion. It has its root there, and it can never be divorced from it. That's the main crux of it all. So if we look at religion, how it all started, and we had all of these people who came for illumination. That's what all the even the writings that we were reading earlier. It says it's about illumination. It's about bringing light to the world. So they have all had the same foundation, but there have been dogmas. There's this evolution in the way people started their practices, and there was about different aspects of religion. So you got those so many sects in one religion, then you have even subsects in religion, and then you find that they have diverged from the main concept of what it is. It's all about love and unity. It's all about developing morality, developing virtues, and how do you live in the human world. But there was a game with power and politics that got involved, and that is why we've had so many challenges when it comes to, and people have become disgruntled with religion. So this is a kind of progressive revelation, but not really. Just I'm connecting it more to spirituality. So I looked at the oldest religion or spiritual faith, and that was the Aboriginal, and they have this thing about interconnectedness. We connect to the earth, to the universe, to animate and non-animate things, to plants, to everything. And they say that everything is interrelated. So not just the earth, but even the celestial bodies, everything. In Hinduism, it's about the Atman or the self, which is, it can be the smallest or the biggest thing, and it's like the Brahma is God, and it's a universal self-conscious, and it's different from mind, body, and ego, and the egoistic self. So it's being higher than oneself, being different from oneself. And there's a very strong belief in karma, do unto others. It's the universal golden rule as well. So it's the same thing. You do something bad to, it will come back to you, or you do good to others, it'll come back to you. Buddhism is also very similar to Hinduism, but there they also have the concept of freedom from suffering, freedom from change, and that makes it talks more about nirvana. So how do you achieve nirvana? So it's very similar, but slightly different in that sense. But again, the concept is about detachment and enlightenment. Then there's Christianity. Is again it's got a similar the context, and it's about being in harmony with the will of God. What is the will of God? And so we evolve into that notion of how do we follow what God is saying. And the same way in Judaism is the same thing. So I just put that into one. And then we have Islam, and in Islam again it is the same, that God is everywhere. He's everywhere, so we need to be always mindful of what we do, and again follow the rules and regulations from God, whatever he says. And that is spirituality within that context. And then within the Baha'i faith, what Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha say also is that it is the greatest of God's gift. Because of spirituality, we are able to understand that there's a God, and we need to connect to them, and we'll obtain everlasting life. But it does not, you do not get it like that. Within the Baha'i faith, it says it is about walking together in a path of service to God and humanity. So it's more about, again, service. But there are all those aspects. If you look at this, it's in all the religions, all the faiths, they say exactly the same thing. So then I come to secular. I put that in religion, but it's actually slightly different, because there are a lot of people who say, I'm spiritual, but not religious. And even when I was interviewing my participants, they were like, they were literally scared of talking about religion, because I'm not religious. I cannot be a part of that. And I said, don't worry, we're not, there's a lot of fear around that. And I said, I am not religious, I'm spiritual. Fine. Because they had a lot of the issues with and there were a lot of those who actually were raised in very strong religious families, which was really interesting for me. He said, my parents are very strong they've got their Catholics, and they're Anglicans and Orthodox, and they're different. I had different viewpoints from Christianity, actually, and then how some of them had moved away from the faith because they felt that it doesn't connect. But they say we still have that goodness, we still have that, and they have adopted those from religion. Some have taken from Buddhism. They were Christian, raised Christian, and went into taking ideas from Buddhism. And they say it's all about connection. It's all about meaning and purpose. And when you are bound with, you're a religious person, you are bound within certain boundaries and rituals and all of those. And then we can't do that. We want to be connected. We need wholeness. We need relationships, but not just God. It could be with anybody. It could be with the tree that I have planted, So, and the main thing was because of the dogmas within religion that they have formed this. And that's how spirituality has its own identity now, separate from religion. So we have religious spirituality, and then we have spirituality as a separate entity. And that's what they talk about teaching in schools and colleges and universities. So one of the things that, these are some of the findings from what people have said. So they said, okay, when we talk about spirituality, this was my first question. What do you think is spirituality? So these are the answers. Religion, it's about God, it's about the metaphysical. So it's not necessarily even God, it could be anything. It's about being in awe with and wonder about the world, about the space that we are in, about the place we're in. It's about prayer and meditation. And then they talk about meditation in terms of yoga and other practices that they do. And it's about ethics, morals, values, wisdom, meaning, and purpose. And then they all talked about the golden rule. And this is the diagram that I have added here, which shows all religions have the golden rule. So they've taken that and put that as even secular. Talked about connection, altruism, and service. And that's, again, what we can see is some of these are from the faith, some of these are from people who are not of faith. And yet they're talking the same language, the same words, which was the most interesting part for me. They talk about behavior, about justice, about diversity, about spiritual well-being. They talk about it's a holistic way of life. And then there was a concept of cultural spirituality, which is really interesting because that is like, for example, you have Christmas. You're not a Christian, but you celebrate Christmas. You celebrate Holi and Diwali in India, but you're not Hindu. So those are the cultural spirituality, and that those people are cultural Hindus, cultural Christians, cultural that, and that's what they talked about. And then it's beyond reason, it's irrational, it's inexplainable, and it's childlike. So it's very innocent and pure. And it's a broad construct. So you can really not define, not explain it. And that's, as the question was earlier, how can you define spirituality? You cannot define it in specific words or in specific language. So in a nutshell, basically spirituality, from what I understood from the writings, from religious and non-religious scripts as well, as it is about meaning and purpose in life. It's about connecting with others. It's about connecting with the self and with a higher power or God. It is holistic in nature. It could be everywhere, and it modifies according to people's connections with others and themselves. And so we come to the point of what is the soul? So everybody talks about what is the soul, and Baha'u'llah says it is a sign of God, a heavenly gem, which minds cannot grasp, humans cannot understand. It's a mystery. And so it's very hard. It's impossible, actually, next to impossible to talk about it, to understand what it is. But the thing about the soul that he says is that it was the first one that declared that the excellence of God, recognized what was his glory, what is his truth, and bowed down in adoration. And if a soul is faithful to God, it will reflect the light, be that lamp with the light on, and will return to him eventually. They won't just be in that darkness. So this is, I think, the writing that we had, one of the writings that we were reading. So I just wanted to talk about the journey of the soul, and what is that world? What is the next world for which we have to prepare in this world? Because that's basically our purpose. So we need to know, why do we need to get ready? What is the thing about that other world? Because we don't know what it is. We know what's in front of us. We know that before we were born, we were in the matrix, we were in the mother's womb. We were given all of these things, hands, eyes, nose, senses, but we didn't use them in the womb. We don't know why they were there. But when we got here, we saw, oh, wow, this is a world. This is where we are going to use our capacities. And now we're here. We have been told that there's another world, but we do not know what it is. It's just like we're in another womb. So what is it? It's been given a little bit of a shadow or a little bit of light on what could be and why do we need to prepare ourselves. And it says the world beyond is a world of sanctity and radiance. So it's all about being very sacred, and it is actually really beautiful. So we need to have divine attributes. And so what are those? We have to really think about those things. There is a need for spirituality, faith, assurance, and the knowledge and love of God. If you love God, it's really, really important to understand. When we talk about love, normally we talk about the physical sense, but the love of God is really different. And in terms of spirituality, when we talk of love of God, it is like, for example, if I love God, I will love everybody. I cannot hate anybody. I love them not because that person is beautiful or that person is very nice or is very kind. No, I love them because they're a creation of God. And to achieve that, and that person can be very irritating as well. That person can be really horrible to you. How do you still love them? How do you accept them? How do you feel for them? That's part of what is spirituality, is to be able to detach ourselves with our emotions, connect with the Creator, connect with the God, love God. And then everything is beautiful. Nothing is a challenge. It's just that you will be tested. And that test brings us closer to God. So when we go to the next world, it's a heavenly kingdom. So we need to be ready for that. It's a world of lights. So we need to have illumination. It's a world of love. So we need to love God. It's a world of perfection. So we need to have those virtues and perfections to be there. It's a world that is living. It's got the life from the breath of the Holy Spirit. So then we need to start looking for it here so that we can be there and we know, oh, wow, this is beautiful, because we will go. We cannot stay here forever. And that's why we are here. And so when we look at this is the purpose. It is the attainment of the supreme virtues of humanity through descent of heavenly bestowals. The purpose of man's creation is therefore unity and harmony. Look at all the religions that we talked about before: Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Baha'i faith, even the Aborigine. It's all about connection. It's all about love and about unity. Nowhere do they talk kill another person or harm another person or do bad to another. The golden rule, it's also do unto others that they would do unto you. So we cannot have that separatedness, and that's what the Baha'i writings as well. And all the religious writings, and even the secular writings, the people who don't believe in religion say exactly the same. They say we need to be together, unity, harmony. We are not created for discord and separatedness. And then the example given here by Baha'u'llah is like the mineral kingdom. It's got all of these minerals, all of this the matter that's within the earth. They would not be, if there was a discord, they wouldn't be united. We wouldn't have an earth. And then we look at the planets, and they would be like, we've got a solar system, and all the planets are attracted to each other. They love each other. That's why we are here. Our Earth loves us. That's why we can walk on the ground. Otherwise, we'd be floating everywhere. So, it's all that. And when we are separated, we are angry, we are not united. What happens? Marriages break. People get separated. Friends, brothers, sisters, families, they break away. And then you feel lonely, and you feel isolated, and you feel alone, and then you feel sad. And again, darkness comes over, and that happiness, that light, that goes away. And that's what the purpose of our life is to be united, to be in harmony, to tolerate, to love, and to love for the sake of God. So, as Baha'u'llah's another writing is here, and he talks talked about the womb, but then he says the physical world is a world of hardship and suffering. And when we deal with these difficulties, we understand that there is the material world. How do we get them? If there's no material world, we can't be perfected. We need to be spiritual and yet live in this material world and develop our qualities. And so we have been given free will, free choice. But then if we go towards earthly and material possessions or selfish purposes, we can see there's so much that creates the darkness in the world. But then when we look at, okay, there's that darkness. How do we keep my light shining? How do I keep my spirituality? How do I build it up? And so I have to move forward. So what I will do is I will be looking at, what are the principles of spirituality, what I should be doing, developing my virtues, being positive, loving God, and understanding why, what is spirituality, and act. It's not about just saying, okay, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person, but then I go and do evil. That's not spirituality. Or even as a person of faith, we say, oh, God says this, and then we say, okay, we preach that you need to be honest, and then we go and tell lies. And again, there's darkness that comes in. So we need to understand that, and when there's a test, and there are trials, there are hardship, we need to be steadfast that yes, we will have that positivity, because we know that we are here because we have to develop our spirituality. And that is one of the thing that I have found, I have understood, is that we are like a mirror that, the sun is reflecting. God says, okay, I'm right, I'm here. But then the mirror of the heart says, oh, I want this, and I want this, and I want all this material glamour that's around us, the shining things that are there in the material world. And you want to go and do that, and then that creates a darkness on our hearts, on our soul. And so the mirror, the sun's shining, there's this darkness, and that darkness envelopes because we are not cleaning it. When we clean, how do we clean it? By service. How do we clean it? By loving others. How do we clean it? By being kind and understanding that this is just a test. We are here in the world of where there's going to be hardship and suffering. But then we need to manifest ourselves as a true spiritual self. The progress of the soul does not come to an end with death. It rather starts along a new line. And Baha'u'llah teaches us that there are great far-reaching possibilities that await the soul in the other world and the world. So spiritual progress in that realm is infinite. And no man while on this earth can visualize its full power and extent. So what we are talking about is really what is spirituality, understanding what it is. And basically from what I've understood is spirituality is about being good, being honest, being loving, about having the qualities, the divine qualities that God has asked us to have. Because when you look at God, we expect something from God. we have to have that expectation from us, from ourselves, from our community, from the people around us. And it starts with me. I build my spirituality, I work with others, work together, connect with others. And through that, we have a community of people working together and building not only a kingdom of God on earth, but then also building themselves and going to the next world. Because the next world, as it says, it's not the end, it's the start. So in the mother's womb, we were prepared to come out here. Here we be prepared to go to the next world where it's limitless. So it is time we need to work on that. And that's some of the things that I looked at and I found. And if there's any question, I think this is what I can do in this limited time that I've had. So I hope it makes sense. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and speech, Dr. Lubna. And I sort of feel that spirituality encourages people to live in peace and harmony. Yeah, I mean, religion is, some people will say religion is not connected, but I have been always with the religion, so I feel religion is connected to the spirituality. So I'm in the Christian faith, and it reduces the violence. And in the sort of, if you are a spiritual person, there's no violence coming. I mean, there might be on and off, there will be small violence with the children or with anyone, but it's not a big violence. It's going to come. It's like a, reduces the violence, I would say. That doesn't mean that, I can't say on behalf of other countries, but there are violences every country. I don't want to talk about their religion. And also it reduces the poverty. So if you're a spiritual person, you'll feel like giving someone, even whether it's at $1 or a $50 or a $100, whatever we can afford, we will feel like giving. It's not the number that matters. It's $1 or $50. And I think it's that we sort of accept a lot of things, and forgiveness in our life, being a spiritual person. But it doesn't matter what religion, as you put that, religion and spirituality, is sort of connected, maybe if you are a religious person. But if you're not a religious person, a secular person, then it's not connected, but it is sort of makes us more of a peace and happy people in our life. And thank you very much for that. And I guess, Pangad, you got a question to ask? Are you happy to take a few questions?
Sure.
Maybe friends can use the reaction button to put your hands up. Or if you are using your own hand, make sure that the master of ceremony, Marina, knows that you have your hand up.
Yes, I could see.
And there's a comment by Pangaj. He is online, but because he travels, he has put it on the WhatsApp. He said, religion helps us in our path of spirituality. Our spiritual journey starts the very day when there is a slightest doubt, am I this body or something beyond? And it ends when we have 100% decided, confident, and transcended it. That was his comment.
Thank you.
So the thing that I actually found was our spiritual journey, according to Baha'i writing, says that it starts when we are conceived. So it's in the womb. So we can't even imagine, that's how the soul gets connected. So that's when our spiritual journey starts, but it's still not developing, because and that's why when as pregnant we have if you are pregnant, we have prayers, and when we pray to our baby in the womb and to the fetus, they develop those qualities and they hear, and so when they come to the world, they're prepared for actually developing themselves as spiritual beings. And that's something that I tried when I had my kids, and it really is interesting how it helps the nurturing infants and children. Like I used to sing when I was a mother, I prayed all the Baha'i prayers, I used to sing them. And so my kids was raised, rather than having lullabies. My lullabies were basically Baha'i prayers, and because I used to sing a lot, so they actually memorized those things, and they started to, you know, work with that. So spirituality can start at any time. It's actually, but the first thing is the basis of the connection of the soul to the human body is, as per the Baha'i writings, is at the time of conception.
And I think Rohani and Elizabeth and then Jung.
Got some questions.
Yes.
Dr. Lubna, I just want to know if you are a good person, why you don't need religion?
I am totally for religion. I am a Baha'i, so but the people that are there, like I had one person the first person I interviewed, he was completely atheist. He had no idea about spirituality. So when I went to him, because it was a volunteer activity, so he said, I have no idea what spirituality is. I believe it's religion. And then as we talked about, you know, he said, I am a good person, I am an honest person, and I have learned all of these things. So why do I need religion? I can be spiritual, I don't need religion, because religion talks about war, talks about this. But the thing about religion is no religion talks about war. Even the jihad in Islam is first jihad bin nafs, jihad with yourself. But if you look at the way it is now, because of the evolution, because of the way people have been practicing and the power and politics, which I talked about earlier, that has caused that change. And so what was in the original text, and it was in Arabic, and Arabic is a language which is very, it's very subjective, because it could mean anything with a little bit of a change of tone. The word changes, it means something completely different. So that's why they have so many sects in Islam, because they're talking about this and that and that. And so there's a lot of confusion. But then, and same thing with the Christian faith, and that's all in Latin. So they have the same problems. The translation could mean, and that's why we and the Baha'i faith, one of the things with the covenant of Baha'u'llah is that, you know, we have people who are dedicated to interpret the faith, the writings. First it was Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, the Universal House of Justice. They can explain, they can elaborate. So we are not allowed to do that. So that's why there's this division of religion is not there, of sectarianism is not there. When that's not there, people can be religious and spiritual. The problem has happened that people have become disenfranchised, and so they say, I'm spiritual, I want, because they all want connectedness. They know there's something out there. But then they also said another problem that they talk about, if God is there, for example, the atheist people, they said, it's so beautiful, the world is so beautiful, everything is awesome. So why do I need a God? Why is there a God to create all of these? And I would ask them, why not? How can this be created? Oh, the scientific things and all this, the nonsense they were saying. But it's not nonsense, because rationally, if you think, it makes sense. But then they said, if there is a God, why is the world like that, the way it is? And I said, well, there is a God, and God has given an idea, and people are not listening, or they're misinterpreting things. And so things can happen. Everybody has their own opinion, has their own understanding of concepts. And it is our experiences, our belief systems, it is our encounter with other people, our connectedness, disunity, disharmony, all of those things cause people to feel that, okay, if people of faith can be like this, I don't want to be like that. I'd rather be spiritual rather than in that faith.
Just wanted to know if it is a need to have a religion in this world. Is it a need, or just, if you want to have a religion, or it is a need to have a religion?
I can't answer that, because that's if you believe in God, God says this is what it is. But again, the way we define religion in the material way, that I think is not the right way of doing it. If religion will say, okay, this is the kingdom of God on earth and let's create it, then, because religion, we're all the same. It's about faith rather than religion. When we use the term religion within the worldly domain, it has very negative connotations with a lot of people. So when we say the Baha'i faith, they listen. When you say Baha'i religion, they're like, okay, so you have specific rituals, you have this, you have that, and they will go back into all those things, because a lot of negative things have happened within religion because of those rituals that they've and the practices that they have. And we have been asked not to have rituals within within our activities as well. So, you know, it's in that sense, religion is needed, but then it's not something that needs to be closed down. Like we believe that, you know, after 1,000 years, there's going to be another manifestation. It's a continuous cycle, whereas a lot of religions, they just end there and that's it. As a young person, when I was studying at the university, and the Australian Catholic University, and I was the only non-Catholic who was in the Christian education. I went to church and all of that just to understand what they were talking about, because a lot of things that they don't, and they say, "You're Lubna, you're not a Catholic, you're not supposed to be here." And I said, "But I'd like to learn." And said, "Okay, so some things may be offensive to you." I said, "Nothing offends me. I'm a Baha'i." So they agreed with that, and then I participated, and I found they had the same thing, that, you know, there's no messenger after Christ. He's the last prophet of all prophets. When I went to the Islamic classes, they were said the same thing. He's the last prophet of all prophets. So when you narrow things down, it limits our minds. And then we start thinking, okay, if the world is to end, why should I do anything? Why should I even care? And so that's the problem with the religion and the binding nature of that.
Thank you very much.
No.
Elizabeth, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I thank you very much for your beautiful talk tonight. I have enjoyed every minute of it, and I can relate to a lot of it. First of all, religion creates our spirituality. A lot of people think, yes, negative towards religion, and things have been done to make it that way. But if you follow your religion, it creates your spirituality. You learn the tools to trust God. When you come back to that last sentence you had about everybody thinks after Christ there's none others. But if you read the Bible, and at the end of it, it says, "No man cometh to the Father but by way of me." So if you understand Jesus, you will understand the next manifestation. I was brought up Christian. I followed the Christian faith. But I also realized that Muhammad came afterwards, and he too was a prophet of God. I never had a problem with that. Knew nothing about it, but I never had a problem with it. And the beauty of my life was my hardships were in the country, where the earth and everything around us was life. And I learned a very deep appreciation of life and of God. So I come back to doing book 1 recently. I think it was book 1 or book 2.
About, explain, Elizabeth, what is book
one?
Some people don't know what book 1 is.
Well, I'm sorry about that. But it says that if we love God, God can reach us. And our spirituality is a two-way thing between ourselves and God, or the higher being. And this is where I think that if we open our minds, God can reach us. It's a two-way thing. That is what I have discovered in my life, and I value it very much so. So that connection, we have that connection with the universe. We have that connection with everything around us. And I thank you for your lovely talk tonight.
And thank you for your insightful thing that you've just said. I mean, I'm so happy right now, because that's exactly what I believe in, and what I feel like. I believe that everything that happens is because of God. God has a plan for us, because honestly speaking, I've had a lot of hardships in my life, and I feel like there were times I would question, "You love me way too much, God." So every time, "God, I love you," and there was another test. So it was like, okay, so you're testing me. But as you said, you know, it's that two-way connection, and then, you know, and then things happen. And
you're right. I mean, I was standing in a Christian Sunday school And the man read out, the minister read out the parable of the vineyard. And straight away, it was as if a door opened. And straight away, I went home to my husband and I said, I think Christ or the messenger has returned. And we went looking.
Wow.
Just that I was aware that something changed. But I have a long story and I can't share it with you at the moment. You haven't got the time, but there is a God out there and it's merciful and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think Jung had a question, but
And Zora.
no, Jung was before Zora. Yes. And you're done, Jung.
Thank you, Dr. Lubna. My name is Jung Deep Dinh. Was interesting to hear your talk, especially you talk about the interview and you talk about the corporate business world when people don't talk to each other around lunchtime. As you notice that for the interview panel, if people got invitation to interview, just say commercial graduate students, and both of them have 100% marks in their discipline study, but one, if asked about religion or spirituality, the question should be in essential criteria or desirable criteria. And if the person talks too much about religion or spirituality, will that person get a job? You know, like $100,000, you know, that's a lot of money. And a person who talk less about spirituality, which one will get a job? By my experience, the people who avoid religious questions and answer very little will more likely to have a job, to get a job. You know, that's how the mentality in our society is, because they just need somebody who just, you know, work straight away and don't talk too much and don't think too much, especially not thinking too deeply into spiritual life. As you understand that, you know. And the other thing that for me, I try to listen to see if you mentioned about miracle, but you haven't, I'm still waiting for that, the miracle. And the other notion is about attachment. For me, religion and spirituality supposed to be detachment. It means that we detach from, you know, real life situation, try to concentrate on whatever other part of the work that we have to do with the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit and the human people work together so they can attain the understanding and, you know, love of God. But then that is a detachment, like in people who follow Buddha. But then the other notion is attachment. In like to your notes, you talk about attachment to God. So why attachment to God is okay, but then we have to detach from human being to be attached to God. So that for me is contradiction. So, and the other thing, there's another note too. Talk about unity and harmony at the moment. Our government wants us to be, you know, like stay at home, order. We don't talk, we don't have meetings. We can't have like 100 people meetings and a lot of restrictions. So therefore it's going to slow down our spiritual progress towards God, and our services is just like a passport to go to heaven. So in real sense, God sent us to the other way, not come close to God, but go to the opposite direction. So you think you worry about that?
Okay, there are quite a few questions there.
Yes, thank you so much.
No worries. I'll start with the first one because that was the closest that I can still remember, because I started to think immediately about that. It is about spirituality, because this is one of the issues that I was looking at, because it is, can we teach spirituality in higher education or even at schools, you know? So the concept, the fact that spirituality, we're talking about religious spirituality, or are we talking about spirituality in itself? And that's the whole debate that happened during my research, because they were like, we can do that other spirituality, but not the religious one. But then we had those people who were very religious, strong Christians, and they were like, you cannot have spirituality without religion. And so, there was that debate. And one of my findings was that unless we have an academic definition of spirituality, we cannot teach it, because there's always going to be a contest about that. So that's the first thing. So you've got a rubric, you've got all of that. But again, people come with their own individual spirituality. But there have been studies where people have taught spirituality. I have done that in my class as well. And what I did was give them that free space to voice their spirituality, to talk about them. So they could be religious, they could be non-religious, they could be atheists. And in one of my classes, that's in the postgrad class, I had the concept of what is spirituality for you. And there were people from different religions, different backgrounds. They were atheists as well. And then I had a few students who were Hindus from India. There were students from the Christian faith. And what I did was I opened the forum and I said, talk freely, this is a safe space. And they talked, and then they learned about each other, and that helped in diversity and inclusion in my class. And they actually became friends, because they were like, we did not know that this happens. We did not know, but they've only heard what's on the news or what the media shows. They do not know the reality of it. So it worked out in my class at least, and I had lots of new friends in there. So it's all about communication and creating that bond and connectivity. I did not say that we have to be attached to God. I said we have to love God. There's a difference between them, because when you attach to something, you become obsessed with it. So we're not talking of attachment. We cannot even be attached to the next world. So it's about being detached, loving God because we love him. And because of his love, we love everybody else. Not because, for example, I get married to somebody because I'm not married. So if I had a husband and he is ugly, and he loses his job, and I have to take care of him, and he gets sick, and I start feeling resentment against him because I am doing everything, and or this person is abusive or angry or whatever. If I love God, I can forgive him. I can live with that person. But if I don't love God, even if he says something, I love you and I don't like this person, because I love this person only for a certain reason. And that reason should not be the material world. It should be the spiritual thing. It should be for the love of God. That's what I was trying to say, that we cannot be attached to God, because then you're like, God, you've not done this. This is your fault. We attach, when we're attached to something, we have blame. We blame them. We have all sorts of negative things in there. So it's more about love, and love is a very positive concept, where we say, okay, we can do this. We can love somebody for who they are. No, you love somebody for who they are. They're bound to do something wrong, say something wrong, and if you are upset with that, you stop loving that person. That's not love from God. That's a human material love. So what I was talking was more of a spiritual nature. The other thing I think you were talking about, what was another question?
I'm talking about, the concept of spirituality. We have to base on whether people come from a capitalist society or the socialist society. Mm-hmm. And in a socialist society, they said the material means will have to go first, and then you will have spiritual study or spiritual progress. Mm-hmm. Just like we have to have an infrastructure first. Mm-hmm. It's a capitalist ideas, and then after that we will build up the intellectual whatever capacity of anyone or any nation or any local government. Yep. So therefore, what I'm saying is depend on the why nowadays why people keep crying about stimulus package. They want money. They want stimulus package. They want real thing in life. Otherwise, they develop mental illness. So why is that? Because we are so weak. we are so weak that we cannot see that is the test that come from God.
Yeah.
Or maybe we think that way.
Yeah.
You know, we, I mean, talk about philosophy here. We hate to think about that way. So we feel so much happier.
Yeah, I
You
can
know what I
talk
mean?
about this. Yeah, I can answer that. If you go to the developing countries, right? You go to India, Pakistan, you go to a lot of Arab countries where you see, even in China, you see a lot of poverty, and these people, they work really hard, and so when they come here, for them, and when they talk about their hardships, people cannot relate to that, because people in countries like Australia, developed countries, they cannot understand that pain, so they do not know what is hardship. So these people who come in, like a lot of my students come in and they talk about, how tight they are living, and the little few means that they have, they've sold their land and property to come to Australia, and they're struggling and they're not getting jobs, and they're having all these issues. And when they say something, oh, they're always crying, these international people, the way the other teachers are talking, and they find that they can talk to me because I listen to them. I've been through those experiences as well, and having lived in different countries, you go through all of those things, and the fact that they have there's a lot of facilities here. Life is very easy here. You get everything. You get Uber, you call them and you get food. And there are people in Africa who can't even get a meal. They're dying of hunger, and here people throw food just on the road, on the garbage bin. Date expired, done. So when you have a lot of facilities, I was actually working with a counselor a few years ago, and I told him I was going to Australia. I said, Lubna, you won't be able to serve there. That's what the first thing he said to me. And I was like, no, but I'm going to, because I was actually working with the community villages where, with, the lower caste of within the Hindu community. And I worked with them very strongly. And we had gotten about 100 kids in school. So I was really involved in a lot of things. And he said, you won't be able to serve. I said, why? He said, because they have everything. When you have everything, you don't value what you don't have, because it's just you have, how would you know what is hunger? How would you know what is, and so when you have a lockdown, people get scared. Oh, I don't have a job. They have a lot of money in the bank, they can use that, but they still want the money from the government because I don't have a job. And you go to their band, they're having parties and they're going to the beach and they're having fun. That's because of they're stuck in the material world. The dross is on the mirror of their hearts, and that is why the light is not shining, and that's why they struggle in that way. Struggles are real, but they're different, and that's why they have so many mental health issues. And the problem now with the developing world is because they're imitating the developed world, they're having the same problems. And so they are stealing and there's robbing and they're doing everything, just so that they make more money and they can live that same life that with facilities, and then they're losing their spirituality in that process. I hope that
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you cover everything.
I know
Lubna,
we are conscious about the time, the doctor.
Lubna said that you wanted to leave by 8:30.
8:30.
Are
Would
you
we be able to
still-
take one more question from Zora? Or
Yes.
I can. I mean, I've requested them to give me a bit of a leeway, so they said, okay, by 9 o'clock I can be. So
okay,
that can
thank you
work
for
for me.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
tell us when you want to go. So
Sure.
okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lubna. I just wanted to ask, what do you see? How do you see the world in the future of the world? How do you see it from the point of spirituality and materialism? I just like your view about the world in the next maybe 50 years or at least 10 years. How do you say? Not too far.
Okay. I believe in what Shoghi Effendi says. Shoghi Effendi said that the world is going to go into chaos. He has promised that, and is going to go from bad to worse until a point when they will look towards our community, the Baha'i community, and towards somebody who is going to give them some light, who's going to guide them, who's going to provide them the need. Because once you have a lot of things, after a while you just don't need it. Then you start looking for something better. This is what happens everywhere. Like if you go, I don't know if you've seen the movie Brewster's Million. It was a long time ago when I was a kid. I saw that movie. My dad made me see it, and it's a guy who's a very rich man who dies, and then he shows a video. He says, he's got I think millions of dollars, but the grandson would inherit that money only if he spends $1 million out of it before a certain date. So within 30 days, I think he had to spend that $1 million, and then he would be able to get the rest of the inheritance. And he did not know how, and he had to do it legally. He could not invest, he just had to spend that money. To the point that when if he could not spend that money, the money would go to a trust fund. And the people of that trust fund actually wanted to mess up so that he doesn't get the money. The reason for that was that when he had so much, he spent all his money on everything. He had the value for that. He knew what is important. He needed something different. And so when he got the other money, he did not care about, the way he would have done. He wouldn't have spent it. He didn't spend it because he knew the value. And this is what happens when you eat too much. You don't want to eat more. You want something else. You go for dessert. Why do you go for dessert? Because, you want to have a change in taste. Similarly, the material world also is the same thing. You have everything. You've got all the facilities. You've got all the good things. But then you're bored. And this is one of the things that I found with my participants also, that they said that we have all the facilities in the world. Why should we go for spirituality? But then we had the COVID. People got stuck. A lot of people have gone back to looking into religion and spirituality. And that is part of it. So what I see is, and this is what Shoghi Effendi said, that, there's going to be a time when there's going to be chaos, and not just simple chaos. If the whole world, is going to turn. But then they will all look to us. So we as Baha'is as well, it is our responsibility that we take over that thing, that we need to develop ourselves as individuals, as required, or as Baha'is that we have in the writings, that we have to develop our spirituality and then collectively work together. And when we do that, and even just saying prayers, it will disseminate around the world, and the world will come and become the kingdom of God on earth. The thing is, I know it's going to happen. I know that people will become spiritual because that's part of my faith. But we have to go through this crisis. I don't worry. Whenever there's a crisis, I don't worry, because this is part of God's plan. Because when people do not look towards God, it's like, even if you look at the history of religions in Iran, when Baha'u'llah came and the Bab came, there was chaos. If you go look at Arabia, it was the same thing. If you look at all the other religions, it was exactly the same thing. And so there was this light that came in through the manifestation of God. Now, for 1,000 years, there is no manifestation now for the next, not 1,000, like 800 and something years. So it's our responsibility to work with the house, whatever they say, and then build that community. We don't have to make people Baha'is. It's not our job. We have to help them be spiritual, connect to themselves, look at the virtues, the values, and build that community together. Bring the kingdom of God on earth. They don't have to be, not everybody doesn't have to be a Baha'i. It's about the collective wisdom, the collective spirituality to build that connection. And once that happens, everything happens organically. That's what the house also talks about all the time. Organic. We cannot force. When we tell people you need to be Baha'i, Baha'u'llah is here. He's the manifestation of God. And then when they become Baha'is, you tell you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. They run away. And that's because we are not giving them love. We're not giving God's love. We're giving them numbers. And that's not what we want. And that's why there's a lot of chaos as well. So we have to build ourselves first and then worry about the world. This is what I see. And the world will organically, because it is God's promise. So we have to believe in that.
Thank you so much. What about, there are so many people who are advocating about spirituality and they have lots of followers. I mean, they write books and lots of things. What do you think? I mean, I don't want to compare with the Baha'i faith, but how do you see that thing?
I should be the next guru.
Yes, that's their gurus. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a money minting scam. This is what I see, because if you look at the Hindu religion and the way it is originally, if you understand the language, if you understand the concepts, it's not what they're selling. It's a beautiful religion. It's got its beautiful rituals and rites, and I've participated in them, and I really love those gatherings. I mean, I participate in all religions, and I'm always part of it. And it doesn't matter what they are. It's when money is associated with an activity that's religious, that is where problems arise, and that's why. And I know personally somebody who conned people through this yoga thing. We do this, and we just learned a few things online and became a yoga guru, and talking about spirituality and all. And then when I asked questions, they were like, go away. So there are people like that. And so, they are genuine people, but then they are the gurus and the sons, and they are who they are. But then there are others who are making money out of it. If money is involved, one thing I know is it's not right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Like Brian. Tracy, you have a question too?
Yes, this is Bayan. Can I talk now?
Okay, yep, yes, Bayan.
Okay. First of all, Dr. Siddiqi, I like to thank you for your participation and very beautiful talk. It was really interesting. And I have two questions. My first question is, why some of the highly educated people following these gurus? Even though are very educated, but still they follow these gurus. And this is my first question. And the second question, in your talk, you mentioned about marriage. If someone loves someone to leave, he should not think about materialistic. But how can you understand that that person loves you for yourself, not for what you have or what you don't have?
Okay, so the answer for the first question is, a lot of educated people go after the gurus. So yes, I agree. And that's the reason, as I said before, I think I was answering Jung's question, when there's a lot of materialistic aspect here, right? And so when there's a lot of material, then what happens is we thirst for something. And so what they're doing is, we've got the money, we've got the facilities, we've got a wonderful life. I need something more. So a guru there, capitalistic person, says, okay, I know a bit about yoga. I know a bit about, I've been to India. I've seen a few things. I can do that. It's like the dal or the tea. In India, they say chai. Chai means tea. But when I came here, I went to the shop and they said, do you want, what do you want? Chai tea? I said, but chai is tea. But they say chai tea, and chai is basically here, chai tea is the one with cinnamon. So it took me a long time. So it's, again, this is another capitalistic venture on that, because if you go to India, there's masala chai, and there's this chai, and there's that chai. It's not chai tea. Tea and chai translates to tea. So it's the same thing. A lot of people who are who capitalize on people who are thinking, okay, I've got the money, I've got all of these things, but I need something more. So they go to a guru, and the guru is giving them all that they want, all the questions that they have, they answer them, done. So that's how educated people get sucked into it, because they've got everything, and they don't have that religious base, they don't have that spirituality, so they want something more, and so they go for that. The second question about marriage, it's not just about marriage. Even like, this is one thing that I learned a long time ago, when one of my counselors was actually saying that a few things about love of the love of God is, you love your partner, you love your children, you love your friends, you love your mother, you love your father, you love everybody. You love because my father, he gives me a lot of money. You love your mother because, she cooks for me. You love your wife because she's given me all these wonderful children. You love your children, oh, they're your children. And tomorrow, any one of them says something, you will get angry and you go upset and you don't want to talk to them again. Where's that love? Because
Exactly.
yeah, so that's the material love. The spiritual love would be that you love them because they're been made by God. They can make mistakes because nobody's perfect, and you love them for that.
Right. But how we can understand that the opposite person, for example, really she or he loves the other person for the self, not for the what she can or he can offer.
That's again, it's subjective. How would you know? You know when somebody loves you. You can feel that. That's the thing. And again, it has to be a spiritual love. So when you have spiritual love, even things that you don't like, you accept them. Because you say, okay, you don't look at the perfection. You don't see that this person is always angry. What's the good thing in that? You start to look at the positive. Okay, what has God made in that? And then you support them to be the best they can be. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Tracy, Tracy,
Tracy?
question?
Anyway, thank you for your talk tonight. It's very interesting. And I'm a multi-faith person.
Great.
So
Fantastic.
I was brought up Christian, but have studied many faiths. And so I've sort of have that combination in my thinking. And because I go sometimes for Baptist church, I do go, different places, then you'll hear, we're the only way. But underneath, there is that spirituality.
Yeah.
The God, is everywhere. And there are the universe, like whether we know something or not, consciously, unconsciously, it's there. It's like gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Gravity always existed. And then we suddenly discovered and we gave it a name.
Mm-hmm.
Electricity and magnetic energy, it's always been there, but then we become aware and we give it a name.
Yep.
So our spirit is always there, but how can, we need to be in community. Like even this interfaith group, we are a community. We are polishing each other off in a way through, communication and understanding each other.
Mm-hmm.
Then our spirituality becomes more grounded. Because it's not just a theory that I love someone who has a different opinion, but, we meet and we're having that interaction and it's in our hearts that, and then in a realization, they have a different experience, a different background, but they want meaning and connection too, like I do. If we all cry for our children when they're suffering, everyone does. And it's the same tears, the same saltiness rolling down the cheeks. So somehow to create that harmony is what God is working on. And we're all trying to work with God.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's
how I've sort of, but I appreciate the work that you're doing, making a safe space to hear so that people's heart can come out. Because in our, society, because it's become so materialistic, people's heart is suffocating. Yeah. And that's painful. And they don't know why their heart feels suffocated.
Yeah.
Until they have a chance to bring it out and to understand, maybe a different reason, but their heart is also suffocating because we are more than what society is fitting us. We're living in a market-driven society rather than it's been a family, extended family. So I appreciate your work and the attention that you are bringing to people's spirit and heart. So thank you.
Thank you. And I actually felt that when I was with the academics, because there's so much fear about talking about the faith or about religion or even about God or even spirituality. So when I went into the interviews, and the interviews were supposed to be 1 hour, we went up till 2 hours in some cases, because they were just pouring their heart out, and they said, we never thought that we could talk about spirituality, and we are doing that in your presence. And it was like, just tell me what it is, and that this is what it was all about. What you just said, Tracy, was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vasanta had a question.
Thank you very much. It was very nice. And I just want to know.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the talk. Just have a question. And Tracy said about the spirit. Is there a difference between spirit and is there a difference between the spirit and the soul?
Same thing. Same thing. It's just that the spirit is a little bit more enlightened, because the soul is a connection, whereas the spirit is, how do you enlighten that? How do you make it luminescent? It's the same thing.
Sorry, Dr. Siddiqi. My question is, your background is management and business, but how could you relate it to spirituality and your thesis and your subject, your talk about spirituality? It was very amazing for me to hear that.
Okay,
How did you do that?
I can just say that I would say that it's because of my father. When I turned 15, I wanted to be a Baha'i, because my parents, both of them, are Baha'i. But Dad is a first-gen Baha'i. So I asked, I said, Dad, I want to be a Baha'i. He said, no. That's what he said to me straight. He was an NSA member and LSA. And he said, no, you can't be a Baha'i. I said, why? I want to be a Baha'i. He said, no, you can't be a Baha'i because I am a Baha'i. No, you have to be a Baha'i because you want to be a Baha'i. Before that, you need to learn about the Baha'i faith. So he gave me, and not just the Baha'i faith, he said, study the Quran, study the Bible, he was an educator and academic, so he had all these books from all religions. So at the age of 15 until the age of 18, he said, do not talk about being a Baha'i, first study. And he made me study each and every religion. I had to go and meet the different religious leaders as well. And because I was very interested, even as a child, in religion and spirituality, so I would talk. And so that helped me. And then one day he asked me, so what do you think? What do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a Baha'i. And he said, fine, now you can sign the card. So, but he didn't do that with my other siblings. He only did that with me.
Maybe you are the first child, is it?
I am the first child. Yes.
Oh, God bless you, and God bless your parents.
Thank you.
Can I just wanted to say something also, question. There's a friend who, Pankaj, made some comments. Yeah, he said, thank you, Lubna. And when you express without any hidden agenda, God speaks through you. And well said, Tracy, beautifully expressed, Tracy. I mean, Colin didn't say that, and Pankaj said beautifully expressed, Tracy, polishing each other diamonds. Yes, thank you for your talk. And in fact, whatever I wanted to ask and what I wanted to say, Tracy basically said these things, because this is an interfaith forum. And the purpose that we started is that to bring understanding about different religious understanding. And there are some friends who regularly come to this forum. And I have a special friend, Sachi there. He's from my country, from my school, from my university. And he has been coming very regularly. And he is one of the special person who actually do not accept this religion or God as the way that we speak. Now, your research, trying to define what is religion, trying to define what is spirituality, how religion and spirituality was once, and then how it became separate and things like that. Actually, it gives us some insight for us who are collectively trying to understand what is this truth or what is this we are all trying to find out. So now, what have you actually concluded? Whether is that because the friends, some of them, because the way as a follower of a religion, what I do, an observer looks at and say, yes, this is what the religion is doing. Therefore, we don't want it.
Mhm.
So we have alienated the practitioners of religion have alienated some other people because the way that they conduct themselves, and they bring the pure and pristine teachings of God through these different manifestations to disrepute.
Mhm.
Now, how can, what sort of public discourse as a group we are here should conduct so that we can bring the common understanding amongst the different types of beliefs or understanding? Can you?
Okay, so as I said, I did try this in my class as well. So what I did was open the forum and I'd say, okay, so what is your belief? And nobody's wrong. That's the thing. One of the things we have to always accept, I just want to clarify one thing was that what Bayan was saying before. It's like I have a background in education, that's psychology especially. I've got in management, in administration and science. So and teacher education. So I've done a lot of. I've got 8 different degrees in my education and certification, and my family calls me a chronic student, so it's very negative connotation too. So and then I had my father who pushed me into religion from like you want to be in religion, you have to learn about it. You can't just be into that. And a lot of it comes from my childhood as well. Like I can see my siblings, they're not into religion like I am. They are Baha'is, but they won't go to programs. They won't go do certain things. But the thing is, we have to accept everybody as they are. Everybody has their own understanding. We cannot force our beliefs on people. Our job here is to provide the message, and even we don't convert people from one religion to another. We don't convert. We tell them you accept a faith. You do not convert them. That was one thing my dad always used to say. We don't say we convert people. If they can accept Baha'u'llah, they accept God, it's their acceptance. It's not our job. Because yes, we have each one teach one. We should teach people. Teaching means explaining, as you said, our behaviors, our actions. It's more about developing ourselves and working together as a community, walking in the path of service to God and humanity. That is what we have to do. We have to provide people that safe space, that we have. You can talk about anything and you're not going to be judged, because that's your viewpoint, your experience. It's the way you look at the world, your perception. So we all have different perceptions. So a person who's coming from a Hindu background would look at religion in a different way. Somebody coming from a Sikh background would say something else. Somebody coming from a Catholic background would have a different viewpoint, and somebody coming from a agnostic would be different. And I learned all of this during my research, because it was like, but everyone says the same thing. They want honesty, they want love, they want justice, they want peace. And all of these concepts do come from religion. The only thing is the way we, as I said in my diagram, the rituals, the practices, the way we have created meaning in a negative way, because it became all about power. It became all about politics. I know this person, okay, let's be friends, and then you move in the community. Or I know this person, my friend, I use this person for the capitalistic mindset, and then I get that power, and then I can abuse that power. And so religion became part of the material world. We are supposed to be in the material world, but then we have to manage ourselves. And when we get lost, that's a problem. But then we cannot do anything about anybody else. We have to look at ourselves. Even with our children, one of the things that I was reading, one of the writings, and it was our children, we are only responsible for them till the age of 15. At the age of 15, they are mature. They can make their own decisions. It's not our job to tell them what. Our job is the first 15 years, train them. That's our job. But after 50, that's it. And in the Eastern culture, which is really interesting, when a counselor came in and he said, he passed this wisdom to everybody, the parents were like, no, we control our kids. These are our kids. We make the choices for them. That's part of their culture. We can't say anything because, the parents make all the decisions. Whereas it was 15-year-old that has to make his or her own decision. We think that's not normal, that's not okay. But again, we cannot do anything about it. They still may make their own decisions. So how do you work with that? So it's the same thing with friends. Like I have friends who are gay as well. I've never had a problem because I was surrounded by different types of people. But then there was one friend of mine who said, oh, you're friends with gay, what's wrong with you? They were not, and for me, I didn't even think for a second about that. And somebody else came and said that to me, and I got a bit conscious. And then I was like, nah, it's okay. That's your problem, not mine. You want to join me, join. Don't want to be friends, that's your problem. So again, if your friend, as you said, your classmate or has an idea, they have been through that process, they have had those experiences, so you can't remove those experiences. What you can do is provide them with positive experiences, provide them with the love of God, love them for who they are, and that's it.
I hope my friend Sachi feels that we love him.
You love him because you're talking about him, so that's it.
Sachi, you want to say anything?
No?
Sachi is muted.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we have had a few questions from you, and it's nearly for you to go for the other meeting.
Yes.
Sorry, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for inviting. Thank you, Bayan, for putting up my name. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. And it was really wonderful. And if you could kindly share your slides, if you can share with others, because that was very illuminating for our understanding as an interfaith group.
Okay, I will do that.
Yes.
So I'll do that. I'll send it to you, and then you can.
Yes, I will share.
Yeah, and I've got 2 slides in them that I did not show to you, and
yes.
Those have all the definitions from different authors of what spirituality is. So I said that if I have time, I'll do that, but then it was going so fast, and then I just said, okay, I'll do that.
You could have said that we could have cut down our questions.
Questions are better. I prefer the questions rather than just have a lot more content. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, thank you. And
Sorry, excuse me. Can we have the copy of the slide?
Yes, that's what I asked, and she will send it to me and will share. Is there anyone who has not said anything? They want to say anything? Those who have not spoken. Those who have not spoken.
Please, I just want to say that Dr. Lubna, you thinking about joint forces with the priest, the female priest in the Anglican Church?
No. I actually, one of my supervisors was from the Anglican Church, and we had a lot of discussions on that. And then there was the Orthodox Church as well, and they had different viewpoints, and it was very interesting to see. But we can't be priests, so we cannot join forces with them.
Okay, can I ask once more? Is there anyone who has not spoken would like to say anything? If not,
I have one thing to say.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the group today. I really enjoyed the questions. I was very stimulating, really, and I did not realize that I've been like studying a lot of the writings, and I was very confused when I was going to put the writings, and I was like, am I going to put so much? I've got all of this, and because and the diversity, and the first thing that I noticed in the group was the diversity and different types of people, different, and it was one of the best experiences I've had in a Zoom meeting. So thank you for organizing that. Thank you for inviting me as well, and taking me on such a short notice as well, because understanding that I had a problem with my packing. If you look at my house right now, it's like boxes and mess everywhere. So getting to that little place, and I'm grateful because it helps me also connect again to, you know, things that I've had. I haven't seen my thesis in a few years, so got back to it as well. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm very grateful for your questions because they were really superb.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Wish you all
much.
the best for your new adventure.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.